Uche Onyeaguocha joins us now. He's a former member of the House of Representatives. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, what a sad day it is for the country, and well, basically because, I mean, if you look at institutions, the way they ought to function, I mean, we don't see it come to play here. Yes, they can say a lot about individuals in certain positions, what needs to be done, but after now, we come back to this matters time and again. But let's get your perspective first and foremost on, from what you heard so far. How did you see all of this?
Well, let me start by expressing my condolences to the families of all people who lost relations in this unfortunate incident. But I agree with you entirely because this is like a merry-go-round. Each time it happens, everybody feels sad, everybody complains about it, but nothing serious gets done at the end of the day. And I think it's high time we start taking it very seriously because it also goes to the root of how others outside Nigeria should take us. There are lots of people who fly into this country and who say, oh, I'll never fly in any aircraft in Nigeria. They would rather go by road. And if you look at it, it's a two-pronged situation because a Nigerian cargo plane crashed in Ghana, killing 10 people, and this one is crashing within the country. So we must seriously look into this and not take it like one of the previous ones that have happened. A friend of mine used to say that this occurs like a 10-year cycle, after which there will be some silence and then another crash happens again and then we start worrying. So I think it's high time we take it much more seriously than we used to do.
Since you're a former member of the House of Reps, I mean, you all have this privilege of your oversight functions. You get into different agencies of government and see what is going on. Because there was a time that they talked about the Aviation Intervention Fund. They talked about pumping in so much money to that sector. And now we talk about regulation, their functions, how that there were so many complaints that came up about this one for weeks now before this eventually happened. It means that if our articles were also published about the same airline. So that suggests that if something had been done, perhaps stuck to the regulations strictly, we may not have had this.
I don't think it's all about funding because I believe the funding has been provided for many of the cases where they are needed. There are so many airports in this country that don't even have night landing facilities. And when you fly an airline going into such airports, they even arrive as late as 5:30 and above. I think it's quite dangerous. So it's a matter of being very professional and being strict to it. Even you'll be in the airport most of the times and then the light goes off and it takes some long time before they connect to another source of energy. And it's a common occurrence and I'm sure it does affect our radar whenever people are flying in, whether locally or internationally. So we need to get some professionally competent people who can be very strict because this involves loss of lives. Plane crash is not like a road accident where you might be lucky to survive with one leg or one hand cut off. In this case, everybody just goes. And I think it can be anybody's situation. So we must be very, very strict and professional about this.
Well, you know, everyone has been giving his own experiences over time with different airlines, specifically some say about Dana Airline. But if you look at it broadly, when you fly within our airspace, what comes to mind? Are you satisfied with our security safety checks?
I am not an expert in this field, but I must say that when I'm in some of these aircrafts and you move around and you see the condition of their seats, the condition of their toilets, the condition of the luggage compartments, you wonder if these simple areas can be as rickety and as awful as they are, what is going on in the engine, which is going to be much more expensive for them to mend. They are not even able to mend the trays on for the cities for you to eat. They put sellotape to cover some of the hand railings for you to rest your hand. And these are things that shouldn't cost up to 100 naira or say 1,000 at the most. So any airline that cannot fix such basic things as toilet compartments, seat compartments, trays, luggage compartments, I have no confidence. And there are so many of them still flying. Unfortunately, because the situation is not sufficiently very competitive, people just jump into any one of them. I used to be one of those who argue that none is really better than the other, because you will see people tell you, oh, why don't you fly this one, they keep to time. And then you follow this one today, the next day they mess you up, and then you cross to another airline, and they just all do the same thing. So we shouldn't really say that any one of them is better than the other, but there are some that are really terrible. If you see the condition of the internal surroundings in the aircraft alone, no one should tell you that definitely the engine should be a problematic area, because these are very basic and cheap.
Do you think our regulatory bodies have been up and doing? Because we only get to hear anyone say anything after every crash in the country. We haven't, maybe without any crash, say that a particular airline has been grounded.
Yeah, they have grounded some airlines in the past, even though some of them have been on political reasons also. But I would say that I'm yet to hear of any situation where our regulatory bodies have said, oh, because of unsatisfactory technical conditions, this airline is incapable of flying and we must stop it. I'm sure that we have several aircrafts that are not supposed to be in the air, but our regulatory bodies are not being as strict as they ought to be. And unfortunately, we don't have enough, and all of us are running around like we are doing. So I think the regulatory agencies ought to be challenged more and more, because they too fly in the same aircrafts, and we're all endangering ourselves.
Yeah, but don't you think that if there's some arm or some people who can insist on making sure that they do what is right because they're all in government, is perhaps the Senate Committee on Aviation or House Committee on Aviation, they must have seen one or two things. I remember the case in Abuja where they went round. They must have seen some things to say, listen, something's not going on right here, and insist on getting these things done, because it has to be a collective effort. So if they perhaps shy away from some of these, we'll get this kind of scenario. I
think we have to start this in the passengers proper, because those of us who fly regularly, because you find out that there are situations you see for which you should raise a complaint. I would want a situation where passengers have raised complaints to some of these regulatory agencies and supervisory agencies.
But they do that regularly.
In writing, I don't mean oral. We're always in a hurry to do this orally and then walk away and then enter the next plane. And then you talk about the National Assembly. With due respect, the truth is that each committee of the National Assembly, for example, whether it is Senate or House, ought to hire some competent experts as consultants to advise them. The big question is, do they hire these competent experts and as consultants to advise them, or do they do it as a way of browbeating and getting some good media? The big question is, this oversight function that we carry out, when we go out to do it, do you carry experts along to give you the required information you should follow up with the people you are oversighting?
Because without the experts, you just wouldn't know what's going on.
Because the Senate Committee Chairman, Hope, has no expertise on anything about aviation, so he needs an expert to guide him.
That brings us to, whether or not we've been focusing on the wrong things, because, the aviation sector has been in the limelight. Let's talk about the scuffle with BA and the overcharging in terms of airfare tickets disparity, and then we're talking about airport infrastructure. Have we been focusing on the right things? For instance, I mean, if we had concentrated, say, half this effort in ensuring safety in our airlines, do you think we'll be talking about this?
No, definitely. I do not think we'll be focusing on the right things. I agree with you 100%. If we focus on the right things, which particularly is more of safety, there are too many things we are taking for granted that we shouldn't be allowing to continue to happen. And we look at the mundane things which will give cheap publicity and give the impression as if we are working, but the real things are not being done. Several of our airports lack the basic technical instruments with which we should be having to allow them to operate effectively.
Okay, so, well, looking at what has happened now, you being a frequent flyer, and, is this going to affect anything for you?
how would I start saying? I was actually on the 720 Dana, which means this one that crashed was supposed to have come back to Lagos, to Abuja, to pick us to Lagos. So I couldn't make it because it crashed, and I had to buy another ticket of Aero to fly.
You had no fear whatsoever, you know, flying so soon after hearing about just one crash?
Well, unfortunately, the kind of itinerary I run doesn't allow for me to travel by road, because I'll finish this program and I'll be heading off to Port Harcourt. How would I catch up the Port Harcourt appointment?
We heard that there were those who were supposed to be on that same flight that got wind of the fact that there was something wrong with the aircraft, and so they swapped the flight. Did you get any prior information or hearsay, hush hush?
No.
Something might be wrong with that plane?
No. I didn't get any information. It's just that somebody got me on the Dana, and I'm like, why do you get me Dana? I'm not a Dana flyer. I want to do ARIC or maybe Aero. And then while on the way walking to get to the airport, they say Dana crashed and that nothing is happening at the counter. So I called to ask them to change to Aero.
Oh dear. Well, let's see if we can get across now on the line to Emeka Kalu. He was also, okay, we understand that is not there. Perhaps we'll take it much later. But you did talk about the fact that, well, people doing certain things to make look as though they're working, whereas they're not addressing the crux of the matter. If we could switch over quickly now to this other matter, the University of Lagos matter. That's our poll question for this week, by the way. What's your perspective on that? Because it's generating a lot of reaction. We don't know what the poll result will be, but it's out there. What do you think?
Well, I'll start saying that I have a lot of respect for those who are in disagreement with the change of name, but that is as far as I go with them. I do agree that the change in name is very correct, and I do agree that Mr. President hasn't really gone very wrong in the procedure he's following. I do sympathize with the alumni of University of Lagos because everybody reacts that way. But I think we are demeaning the struggle that Chief M.K. Abiola symbolizes and represents. And I think it's high time we stop this because it's demeaning the process. The truth of the matter is that Chief M.K. Abiola deserves this honor. Everybody is in agreement with it. So what is the quarrel? Is it the fact that the pronouncement was made by Goodluck Jonathan? There are times a good pronouncement can be made by somebody you don't appreciate. It doesn't make it wrong. The National Human Rights Commission was created by the wrongest president on earth. That's President General Sani Abacha. All of us were angry that how could he be Abacha? But today, Chido Denkalu, who is one of those who protested against the creation of the Human Rights Commission by Abacha, is the national chairman of the same Human Rights Commission. The person who changed University of Ife to Obafemi Awolowo University is the wrongest person to do that. That's General Ibrahim Babangida. The Southwest wouldn't agree with him. Too many critics wouldn't accept him. But he is the one who changed the University of Ife from Ife to Obafemi Awolowo University. People disagreed with it. People expressed their reservation about it. And at the end of the day, everybody accepted it.
All right, let's take a look at the alumni. Let's see what they say about this matter. They met over the weekend, and here's what they say.
This hall is one of the auditoriums in the University of Lagos. Yes, academic work is on hold, and so this is no lecture session. Yes, for days now, students have taken to the streets protesting the name change. So what exactly is happening here? Well, these senior students under the aegis of Unilag Alumni have convened this emergency meeting of members. They are also strongly against the institution's name change.
The president, before you can make a law or amend any law, you have to go to the National Assembly. University of Cambridge has been there since time immemorial. Oxford has been there, Yale, Harvard. Their names have not been changed. So we should not be arguing.
Every step of the way, they kept reminding themselves through chants what name they would want to be addressed by.
When I heard the announcement, you will have had 2 deaths to work with. I almost died.
in 1962, the Act of Lagos, these people drafted it, deliberately named this place University of Lagos, in spite of the fact that there was no land in Lagos. In spite of the fact that they looked for a place, it was on purpose, because it's a star in the cap of Lagos as a city. Attempting to remove that name from Lagos is like attempting to drain out the lagoon of Lagos.
That change is not allowed. We are not accepting it. It is not accepted. You know, it should not be politicized. We are not saying that Abiola does not deserve the highest honor in this country. But there is a process. The University of Lagos is an act of parliament. It was established by an act of the parliament. And for it to be changed, there should be due consultation with all relevant stakeholders, which include the National Assembly.
While they have promised to pursue the issues around reversal to a logical conclusion, students have been advised to remain law-abiding upon resumption sometime this week.
Oh, there you go. It just keeps going on. But, I mean, it's a democracy.
Of course.
So, what did people say? And they increase in their numbers that, yes, you mean well, but this one, we don't agree. Won't they follow suit because it's a democracy and people say, we don't want this to happen as good as it is all by itself?
They will definitely follow suit because all their arguments are faulty, very, very faulty. But let me take it in segments. You look at the university undergraduates, my response to them is that what is the average age of the Nigerian university graduate? 24. So if you use 24 and the June 12 happened 19 years ago, they were definitely 5 years old when the June 12 struggle was waged. So they are so uninformed. And good enough, one of them was on TV to say that he doesn't even know about Abiola. I bet you if you change the name of that university to Manchester United University or Chelsea or Timaya or the Bunch, so many of them will celebrate
yeah, but
it.
Politically speaking now, I mean, you know how you all do it in politics.
Yes.
Majority don't have to have good arguments to push their positions through.
Yes.
If they're in the majority and they don't like something, they're supposed to have their way, isn't it? And the rest just have their say. So what if they increase in their numbers and then they go to National Assembly saying, listen, we don't want this. And they say, well, if the people don't want it, as good as it is, they don't want it.
Well, they have to convince the 360 members of House of Representatives and all the senators, or majority of them. Or the first question is, does the president have the powers to do this? The answer is yes.
Procedurally?
Procedurally, he's still on track. He just
How?
made the pronouncement. He'll pass a bill. No.
What we heard was
yes.
immediately.
Even
And,
if he says,
how can it be immediate?
Even if,
how can that be when the National Assembly had not amended the law? So
no, even if he says immediately, there is nothing wrong with the law.
But he did not say, I propose. He said immediately.
It doesn't even
it wasn't a proposal.
He doesn't even need to use the word proposal. He can still send it to the National Assembly and it all that will be sorted
you're
out.
a member of the National Assembly. Tell us how it works. Is it that, what the president wants becomes law and he just sends a bill and it's not even debated, it's just passed? Is that how it is done?
This is going to be a minor amendment to a law. In the first instance, the president will need to send an executive bill to that effect.
A minor but an important amendment.
Because the alumni who are acting under ignorance, like the rest of the students from Unilag, because look at the professor saying that Harvard has never been changed. Harvard was named after somebody, John Harvard. Hopkins was named after somebody,
was it
John
a
Hopkins.
federal institution?
Yeah, federal government owns this one. So
yeah,
why
the federal government owned the one that was changed?
Yeah, federal government owns this one and they have a right to change
the Harvard you talked about.
Yes.
It wasn't owned by
No, but it was owned by some other people and the name wasn't originally Harvard.
If it's a private, yes, they can do what they want.
Yeah, but this one is a federal government. How many federal government universities have been renamed in Nigeria? Several. Ahmadu Bello, Usman Danfodio, Tafawa Balewa, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Obafemi Awolowo. The list is endless.
It's endless.
And they are even quarreling with the fact that it is in Lagos. Tafawa Balewa is named in Bauchi. Ahmadu Bello is named in Zaria. Azikiwe in Oka. Awolowo in Ife. What's all this thing about Abuja?
So it's about the region.
A road has been named after Abiola in Abuja. I walk on the street on which the road is being named. There's Mushud Abiola Way in Abuja. So what's this big issue about it? Why is it in Lagos? They would rather prefer it is a stadium. Now, supposing it is made in the name of a stadium and that stadium is abandoned, how would you feel in future? Why? Is it not proper that it's an institution that will have a lasting legacy? And we shouldn't demit on Abiola's contribution to educational development in this country. No, but this is a man who has given thousands of scholarships.
I mean, they're not arguing with what he's done or
they're
how important it is.
The fact is in Lagos.
The thing is, if that could be a follow-up to Marco's question, is that this could get to the National Assembly and get thrown out.
No, it won't. I can assure you.
No, I didn't say it will. I said it could get there and be thrown out.
It will be thrown out because the procedure is simple.
I didn't say it will be.
Tell us about
I said it could.
Let me explain to you the procedure. Now, if it is an executive bill, it's coming from the president of the party in power. If an executive bill is presented by the president of the party in power, it will be presented on the floor of the House by the majority leader of the parliament. And the majority leader is the leader of the party in power who commands the greater majority. And the party in power has more than 2/3% of the people.
You already assume that every single party member will be buying into the bill simply and only because they are the party in power. What you also underestimate is that some people in that particular party might have gone to that school and do not agree.
Well, I do not know that about PDP.
How many?
Tell me that about PDP.
You do not know
executive
I do not know that about PDP members.
Oh,
there is not a single thing that comes from their party they will oppose. They will run it through.
Well, we saw that debate with with Mr. Speaker, even Ikekwe Madu, Deputy Senate President, and the President on just a day before democracy.
When they are playing their politics, behind the scene they will sort out. With PDP, you can be sure that this is not an issue. People are just entertaining them. But mind you, we need to point out that some of the people out here in Lagos who are aggrieved are those who have made a profession out of a clamor that Abiola should be honored. So by honoring Abiola, you have taken away their profession. So I think they should accept it and appreciate the fact that it's been named. And that will also say to the political parties that are aggrieved, there is nothing stopping us from waiting till the time we take over power at the center. We can then choose to honor MKO better. From the time Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated and when his birthday was turned into a national holiday, it didn't take only 19 years. All other parties like ACN, CPC can work towards taking over power at the center and then honor MKO.
And reverse the name?
No, they don't need to reverse the name.
But it hasn't even changed. They say it has to go through National Assembly. So until it's done,
yes.
we can't refer to it as...
So why are we then taking over Third Mainland Bridge?
No, but until it's done, it can't be referred to as... I don't know what name now.
Malu or Mau Mau.